finishing up my breakfast. Mmm. Fantastic. And I got a hot stove going because I figured out why it didn't bake really well last week. So we're going to try it again. We're going to do some more biscuits. And this time, the goal is to have them bake like in 15 minutes, like if I was on a normal stove, because that's how quick biscuits normally cook. Is you cook them. I don't remember if it was 13 minutes, 12 minutes, 18 minutes at 450 degrees, 475 degrees. Anyway, not an hour and a half, which is what it usually takes me. And a lot of frustration. So, we're working on my biscuit baking on the stovetop with bricks. And this is take 2, because last week was kind of a success, and this week is an improvement. So, let's see how it goes. Jose says nothing gets him excited except for maybe biscuits. Well, me too. I mean, a lot of things get me excited, but biscuits in particular. All right, so I woke up late, so I am still prepping the biscuits because I got other things to do. Managed to get everything done though, so that's nice. I called 7 o'clock. I think I slept till 6:30 or 7, which is nuts. I don't know what's going on this winter. Usually in the wintertime, I'm in bed and asleep by 8, and I'm up at 4:30. Not this year. It sucks. I like those long mornings, but I don't use an alarm clock. I don't get up when I'm tired. I just sleep till my body's done. And this year, my body is sleeping later. But I'm also going to bed later. So that's what happens when you use artificial lighting. In the past few years, I haven't used lighting. I only used my my iPhone flashlight. And so it was dark, and I guess I was more in tune with nature, you know. You don't really realize that until you go back to something else. So, I don't know. We'll see. The winter's still early. We'll see what happens for the December, January, February. I'm not, these days are getting shorter and shorter. I'll be glad when they're on the longer side of things. Like, it wasn't so bad a week ago, but then it's gotten worse, obviously, and it's going to get worse until December 21st. So I'll probably be glad I got the lighting, especially as they get shorter and shorter. All right, so what I did wrong last time was, so I put the oven pan on the stove, and I counted on heat from the stove, and then bricks on top of the biscuits for an even heat. But what happened was I didn't have the stove hot enough because I didn't have adequate firewood going. So this time I cut up plenty of smaller firewood instead of the big stuff, so that I can make sure I get a good built up fire so that the stovetop is hot, nice and hot. That way the bricks get to do their thing and not have to try to cook the biscuits on their own, but then they got the fire going below. So that was one thing that I did wrong. Also, the other thing, I don't think that I had the bricks. Well, the bricks were hot enough, but I needed more of them because, you know, one, with the stove not being hot enough, they cooled off too quickly. And this time I've got four bricks in there, so I can have the goal is to have like 5 or 6, so I can have 2 layers of bricks. You know, that way it cools off even slower. I'm not sure I'm going to have that this time because I've only got so much room in the stove, and those bricks take a lot of room. So we will see. But like I always say, you can't add too many variables, or then you don't know what's doing the repair. So with the heat below and a little bit more bricks, I think that's a good way to go, so that I can kind of make the improvements gradually. The biscuits last me 2 days, so, and then for some reason I only tried it one more time this past week. I didn't cook every morning, so I only tried it once, and I had better results, but not good results yet. So anyway, all right, I'm assuming everybody can hear me really well. Yes, Jennifer, I wanted to get a good thumbnail this morning. Usually I just anyway, yeah, I wanted to get a good thumbnail and I was behind, so I posted it late. So I'm glad you guys made it. I try to post by 8 a.m., but today I didn't post it until like 8:20 thereabouts. So we'll see. Hopefully people still make it, and we're gonna have good results today. Hope everybody had a fun Thanksgiving. Hey, Harold in West Virginia. Happy Thanksgiving. Name that movie. Oh, sorry. All right. Jose was making a movie quote. Nothing to get so excited, except biscuits, maybe. Gosh. Well, the one that comes to mind is City Slickers, but I doubt that's it. Oh, probably Lonesome Dove. Was that Gus McCrae? Gus McCrae quote. All right, so the point of the biscuit mix that I'm at is I'm trying to get the butter and the bacon fat that I'm using was pretty darn cold this morning when I put it in the mix, so I'm trying to cut it into small enough pieces to make good biscuits. So that's where we're at with mixing the biscuit dough, and which is fine. Gives us time to get things heated up. Might have five bricks that are pretty good for heat. All right, I assume everybody can hear me just fine. Even I'm talking loud as if I don't have a microphone 4 inches from my mouth. So hopefully it's coming through the microphone pretty well, and not through the phone. All right. What, dog? What do you want? My dog's walking around here trying to get some attention. Oh, speaking of dogs and animals, so I woke up this morning and heard the horses making noise and went outside. My wild mare, she doesn't generally get worked up. My Comanche Moon, she's more alert, more nervous, so maybe that's why, but she's more alert, which is nice. And she gets pretty worked up when she sees animals. We saw a deer a couple times now, and I get my spotlight out to see what she's staring at. But then this morning, both of them were worked up. They were blowing hard out their noses. That helps them smell better, and they do that when they think there's a predator around. And Namnamkin was actually running around and kicking and bucking because something was out there. Unfortunately, I threw my glasses on, I threw my spotlight, grabbed my spotlight, didn't throw it, and my pistol, of course, and went out to find what it was, but there was nothing. I didn't see it. I'm sure there was something, but it had moved on. I don't know if it came up to get water or if it was coming after the horses or what. So I don't know if it was a deer, because like I say, I don't think Namnamkin gets worked up over deer. Maybe she would if it got close. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just kind of bummed that I didn't get to see, so I'll probably go walking later, hoping that it drops some scat so I can get a clue. I've seen a mountain lion here on this property 15 yards from me before. And so I know there's mountain lions. I know there's a potential of mountain lions. And then there might be bears out here too. I'm still unsure about that. I'm pretty sure I found bear sign off my property in the spring once. And then somebody had hunted one and left the remains of it down closer toward closer to civilization, but still out here in the wilderness. And I don't know if it was hunted right there, like shot right there, or if they had shot it. I assumed they shot it somewhere else and hauled it there, but and then cleaned it. But I don't know. So there could be bears or cougars. So anyway, that's why I'm careful to be alert. All right, we got a good hot stove. This is gonna bake some biscuits, folks. This is gonna bake some biscuits. And I also, the other improvement that I didn't mention was, where is it? I got a piece of angle iron that's not rusted too bad, so it's not at risk of dropping rust into the food. And so that helps me put the bricks across. It helps me put the bricks, span it without them falling in the opening. All right, any questions, comments? Hey, Clifton Clary. Cliff, morning, amigo. Desert Solitaire. I like that name. Stanley York. My daughter made biscuits yesterday. Today's my birthday. That's awesome. Thanks for the input, Stanley. Love that. 85 years and still riding. And you did something right. You got family coming around and cooking for you. That's awesome. All right. This tripod, I don't know what. Nothing works smooth around here. Napoleon Dynamite quote. That was one of the best lines of that movie. All right. Got to add some water and get moving on. So, wasn't sure if I'd have enough to talk about, so that's why I said Thanksgiving in the title. Every year, every Thanksgiving, I feel like, I realized it this year, I feel like I spend most of my time defending Thanksgiving because I hate how people attack it. I don't mind it being honestly attacked, but then if you go after something honestly, then it's not an attack generally. Like, I don't mind. I actually try to find out the right history, but that's not what people are doing. They're attacking it because, well, I won't get into why, but it's always attacks. And it's bad history. I get so annoyed with people doing bad history and trying to pass it off when it's not hard to find out the truth about Thanksgiving. And this year I learned even more. Every year I learn more about Thanksgiving, and then I kind of lose interest after Thanksgiving goes away, and then I take it up again the next year because I get pretty excited for the Christmas season, which we have, in my opinion, we have now started into. Anyway, I learned more this year, and I need to do a summary on my Over on the Creekside channel. I'm not sure if I'll get around to it. I thought about doing it the next day, but it kind of feels like, well, I missed that boat because I didn't do it before Thanksgiving. But kind of want to do it just because I've got it on my mind. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll do a quick take on it today, since sometimes I need something to talk about. All right, these biscuits are coming together, folks. Unfortunately, I didn't do a great job at cutting the butter in, so there's a bunch of chunks of butter. But I think I might need it. I don't know. Oh well. Either way, we get a good. We'll have a good idea of how well it bakes, even if they, even if they crumble or are extra dry. From whatever, I think the butter works as the butter and the gluten keep them together. I don't know what role the butter plays. Chunks are perfect. Okay, maybe they'll be just fine. That's what we got. See the chunks of butter in there? Whoops, it was easier in the shadow. Well, now you can't see it. It's easier to see them in the shadow. But yeah, chunks of butter. All right, guys. That's enough kneading and biscuits mixed up. I don't know what's up with Sparta. She was trying to get outside. She won't pass by when Maddie's out there because Maddie's just a jerk. Thanks, Blackjack Creek. All right, maybe they are gonna be okay. See that black spot there? That's Maddie. She likes sitting by the door, which is no problem. But poor Sparta. Maddie's a bully. She, hey, come on. Maddie likes to, when any animal walks by, she kind of nips at him to let him know that she's in control. She's constantly doing that. That's how you stay in control, I guess. Anyway, whatever dog I have, they never like walking by Maddie, and she loves it that way. She just lays down and they tiptoe around her, or if she blocks an entrance or a pathway, then they can't get through. They have to take a long route. Look out, Maddie, you're blocking the internet. So anyway, that's what's going on there. So I have to go out. If I'm standing between Sparta and Maddie, then Sparta feels confident that she can walk without getting attacked. Animal dynamics. All right, we're gonna set this bad boy up. Now, the tricky part is getting those bricks, because those bricks are gonna be red hot. And I need welder's gloves, but these have been working out pretty well. I just hate to use them because they're nice gloves, but they've been working good. Okay. All right, this might be the door brick. So what I need is 3 bricks for the sides. 1. Oh, that one's not very warm. That one's nice and warm. 1, 2. All right, I think I'm going to use this hot one for the other side. And then the door brick, the front brick, is going to be that coolest one that I've got. Whoops. So we'll set it there. All right, now we get the hot bricks. And now the reason I love this setup, as I've mentioned before, is how simple it is. Because unlike charcoal briquettes, these don't go away. I can reuse these. And look at Maddie. Let's see, I thought I had another reason I really like it. I just realized I hadn't put the biscuit mix in the pan yet. All right, so there we go. This is my my smaller cast iron skillet. It's about perfect for my biscuits. Okay, it's be honest, I'm a little nervous about these bricks, how hot they are. But get both gloves. All right. So, yeah. Whoops. Okay. All right. Now, maybe I'll do this. I'll leave that brick in there. And just use this super hot one for the door brick instead of, I was going to put this, I'd like to have 2 really hot bricks for the top. That's why I said it'd be nice if I had 5 bricks, 5 really hot bricks, instead of only got 4. Because then, then the heat won't come off of there so fast. But I'm going to heat up this brick really hot, and I'm going to add more firewood. Make sure that the fire is going really hot, so we get heat from underneath. And we're at 22 minutes roughly. So at 35 minutes, it would be done if we're equal to cooking on a normal stove. So that's pretty dang hot. Okay, hopefully it works. There we go, folks. Definitely an improvement from the last, definitely improvement from last week, but also an improvement from midweek when I tried it again. So that's good stuff. Now it's time for coffee. All right, 22 minutes. Hopefully I remember that. Have to go enjoy biscuits. Blackjack Creek, are you off enjoying biscuits? All right. I've got boiling coffee water, but there's not enough. It boiled out. But at least it's warm. It shouldn't take long. Got it in the fire. Hopefully it boils quick. All right, there we go, folks. Now we're waiting 15 minutes. Like I said, at 35, hopefully they'll be ready. For those of you just joining, we've got the biscuits here. Got a good fire from underneath, keeping it hot. And then we got some red hot bricks up on top and on the door here. I call it the door brick. And there's biscuits in there. All right, so hopefully, and they've only been there for 2 minutes now, and hopefully we'll have some good results after 15. Meanwhile, I'm about to make some coffee. Welcome, Dark Angel, 666-2000. And Craig, good morning. Do I have any Campbell's soup? That's a good one. I know that's a joke. Dark Angels just got back last week from a Camp Moore reenactment. Oh, cool. Is that military reenactment? I'm assuming. Louisiana. What's up, Benny? Fat dog. What's up, fat dog? All right. So next I'm gonna make some coffee. So Thanksgiving, the problem that I run into is people spout off just certain little parts about it, and nobody, not even in the videos, give a real exhaustive coverage of the history of Thanksgiving and how it came to be. Like, people will bring up Sarah Hale, whatever her name was, but they don't say the full story about her or what I consider the significant parts. For instance, Sarah Hale, a lot of people have heard of her, some people haven't. Funny enough, I didn't ever pay her attention until this year. I actually looked into her. So she wrote articles for Godey's, I think it's pronounced Godey's, women's magazine. And I believe she was a pretty well-known journalist for that magazine. I guess you'd call her a journalist. And now, when studying history, the most critical thing is that you first try to understand, when you're reading a historical write-up, what did this mean to the original readers? Because what we do, naturally, we hear it, and we do this in conversations too, by the way. We hear this stuff, we read it, and we apply our mental, of course, I mean, this is the obvious thing to do. You just simply apply, if somebody says, like, magazine, oh, I know what a magazine is. It goes in a gun. I mean, that's just kind of a silly example, but it's a true one. It's like, whatever you associate is what you apply to what you're reading. And now, so when I say a woman's magazine, those of us who are old enough to remember when magazines were a big deal, mostly what comes to mind is the articles in Vogue and all that, sex positions to make him desire you, stuff like that. All this stuff that women are interested in, apparently, or being told to be interested in. And men's magazines are out there too. But back then, what's super significant is that way more than now, trends were really important. I mean, they're important now, but I've seen them dwindle in the past decades, where it used to be that most people all followed the same trends and tried hard to do so. But then, since the 90s, I started to see, like, we had hippies in the 90s, people bringing back the hippie era, and we had grunge. Was grunge around? No, grunge was later. Later 90s. Anyway, we started seeing all these different groups, more so and more so. And that's why now there's no standard trend across the board. Like, this is the trend. That's how it used to be. It used to be the trends came out of France and London, so maybe it's not completely strict, but it used to be that there was only like one trend and everybody wanted to follow it. I'm talking Western civilization here. And so these magazines, they would help establish the trends. And people wanting very much to be on the latest trends would read these magazines and then embrace them so they wouldn't look out of fashion. And the Laura Ingalls books, which a lot of people think you can't get history out of, she does a great description. The later books, when Laura's in high school age, she talks about how, for one, one good example, Mary, the blind daughter, she went away to college and came back, and her dad, the way they would drink tea back then was they'd take the cup of tea, pour it into the saucer to cool it off, and then drink out of the saucer. That was the trend. That was the way things were done. Well, Mary went to college back east. She came back, and she scolded her father for drinking out of out of his saucer, like I forget what term, like a hoodlum or whatever, and and he scolded her, saying, "Hey, I'll drink my tea however I want." But anyway, it goes to show, that's the attitude toward trends. Like a girl would even speak up to her father that he's doing it wrong. Also in high school, there was a trend where they would have name cards. And so it was a trend, you'd have these name cards, you'd buy them at the store and then pass them out, different designs. And then you'd collect them. So you'd trade name cards. So like, um, you had yours and then you traded them for others and you had a collection of cards. And then that went out pretty quick. And I forget which trend replaced it. But anyway, my point is at that time, trends were extremely important to follow. And where do you find out about these trends? Well, in magazines. Because the magazines are getting mass distribution and they come from one or two sources or whatever. And that's why if you think that movies aren't pushing trends, it's just because you haven't read history. I mean, what was that? Oh, we've got hundreds of years of trends being pushed, like I say, primarily out of London and Paris. And you think that then all of a sudden movies are going to come along and they're going to be like, hey, we don't need to influence any minds or the media. So anyway, point is, these magazines were really important for trends, for setting trends. And so that's why, like I say, when you losing viewers, it looks like, well, it's interesting to me. So anyway, so when you read about women's magazines, that's what's going on. The mindset back then was different from today. And so she wrote for this magazine. She was raised in New England and grew up with this tradition of a Thanksgiving feast. The Puritans that ran the area, New England, they had feasts and they had one of giving thanks. Now, I haven't found, and I didn't do a deep dig, so if anybody has information and something to point me to, I appreciate it, but I didn't see her describing anything about that first winter of 1621 when the Puritans and the Indians celebrated together, which they did. But she never mentions it. And she's the one, for those of you who don't know, she's the one who was promoting Thanksgiving. She wrote magazines. She wrote letters to senators and to presidents saying, hey, we need to have a national holiday of giving thanks and have a feast. And she made a lot of progress where I think she had 20 states celebrating it or something like that. And so she'd say, look, we have 23 states, I think it was 23, celebrating it. We need to go ahead and make it a national holiday. Like, she got a lot of momentum going. And but none of them would take her up on it until Abraham Lincoln. And now, Cliff asks when she was writing. I think, well, I mean, she was writing before 1863 because 1863 is when Lincoln adopted it. And I think it was roughly 20 years. I think she was writing in like 1841, maybe earlier. So she had been going, I think, at least 20 years that she was really pushing this Thanksgiving feast agenda. And then, like I say, it finally took with Abraham Lincoln. And now here's the thing about Abraham Lincoln. He wasn't just this good-hearted guy who wanted slaves to be free. Not at all. He was a Federalist. That goes back to the origin of our nation, where we had people that wanted more federal power, and we had people that wanted more states power and less federal power. That was the big fight, and that's what took the longest to get the Constitution ratified. Was these states that said no. Once we give power to a federal government, it's all downhill from there. And they were absolutely right. But that's not what this discussion is about. Just know that that was the debate, and we're dealing with it now. It's just that a lot of people don't realize it. And Lincoln, his war was about bringing in, not letting the states secede so that we'd have a more powerful federal government. And so when he was in the middle of the war, 1863, and a big part of war is getting the masses to believe in it. This is why it's so irritating when you see wars being promoted these days. It's not because it's a just war, it's because they're just trying to rally up popular opinion so that they can have the go-ahead. Because currently, it's still important to get the masses to believe in it. That's why they'd like to get into more federal power. That way they don't have to care what we say or what we think. Anyway, that's what Lincoln was about. And so he was doing this war. He was not winning. The South was whooping their butts most of the time. I'm no expert on the Civil War, but it wasn't nearly as one-sided as you would expect. And so he needs to stir up a passion for the North, which means federal power. And so he sees Thanksgiving. Hey, that's a good one. I'll give these people a mythos to believe in, by talking about how we're celebrating unity in our nation, and Thanksgiving and coming together and helping one another. And so he adopted it. And as far as I know, it was Lincoln who pushed the attached Thanksgiving to the first Thanksgiving that we know of Thanksgiving now. And so, and that's where you run into people. They bring up Sarah Hale. Oh, she's the one that pushed it. But they don't say that she had nothing to, she didn't ever talk about it being associated with the first Thanksgiving between Pilgrims and the Wampanoags. And then people say, well, it was always a tradition before. And so apparently it was just having feasts goes to thousands of years. Having religious celebration feasts, every culture does it except us. We have people attacking Thanksgiving, taking away our last feast. But even when I was a little kid, a big feast on Christmas, big feast on Thanksgiving, big feast on Easter, St. Patty's Day. Feasting is just part of celebration, and we're pretty much losing that in America for the most part. I know there's exceptions. I know there's tons of people who still feast, and I love that. I'm just saying it's being attacked, and that it goes back thousands of years. So the Puritans having a feast with the Wampanoags is nothing new. And that's kind of how we were taught it as kids, like, hey, they decided, hey, let's have a feast, as if nobody ever had. They don't tell you that it's a normal thing, and then they were doing what was normal. So, let's see, are there any comments that I need to acknowledge here? Dark Angel, I missed what you said. Some of us do. I understand how you feel. Are you talking to me or somebody else there? Not sure which part you. And so anyway, so that's a more robust history that you don't hear. The other one that gets attacked, especially from Indians today, they love to harp on this, saying, "Oh yeah, you help some white people and then they kill you for it." And it wasn't like that. during 1621, there was fighting down in Jamestown. Jamestown was not a religious settlement. It was a purely financial settlement. And they got into fights pretty quick down there. I haven't really investigated. I read it about it a couple years ago, but I've forgotten. So they had a war going on, but up in Massachusetts, they were at peace. They were friendly and they were getting along really well. And it's actually a great story. That's why I love Thanksgiving because, in my opinion, why would we not focus on when things went well? Well, there's a lot of reason for that. They want us fighting with each other instead of celebrating. Hey, the best times were when we all got along with each other. And the Pilgrims got along with the Wampanoags for like 50 years. If I remember right, it was over 50 years that they lived in peace there together. And then Saint, not Saint, King George, wasn't it? I forget. A king. I didn't really read into it because that wasn't pertinent to what I was looking at. But anyway, a king across the sea, I think the English king who then got hanged, he provoked a war over there. And that's where the fighting tension came up. And then there was fighting. But if you hear people today, they make it sound like the Wampanoags helped them learn how to farm with putting herring in the ground, and then the Pilgrims turned around and sliced their throats. I mean, that's not how it happened. The Pilgrims, like I say, they lived with them for 50 years. 50 years is a long time of no fighting. We haven't seen that in America today. So we are no one to judge. I mean, who even goes 5 days without fighting on the internet? And here these guys went 50 years of living at peace, and then some outside force provoked a war. So I've read about it in the past, but I can't remember now, again, because it wasn't pertinent to this year's study. But anyway, I love the idea of taking, hey, this went well in our past. Let's focus on that, and let's have a day of Thanksgiving and a feast and come together and focus on good. But you got to wonder, why is there this major narrative to convince all of us peons, all of us pawns, all of us normies, all the pores? Why are they so intent on convincing us that everything was hateful and fighting? And nobody giving the full truth. I've looked for videos where I wanted people to explain this stuff for me. Nobody gives this full truth that I'm giving. It's one-sided. Even if they talk about Sarah Hale, they don't talk about whether she was pushing a Puritan feast from the Pilgrims and the Wampanoags, or if it was a tradition that preceded the settlement. So that part I'm still not totally clear on. I haven't. Her articles are online that she wrote, and I haven't perused them all. And now I probably won't until next year. So, oh, Cliff, she was writing. I believe, 1840 to 1863. 1863 is when Lincoln saw how it could be advantageous to utilize Thanksgiving. But she was writing for years before that. So that's essentially, I mean, the ending of it, because she achieved her goal in a sense. Dark Angel, thanks, you said, was when you were talking about the subject of how too much federal power was bad, and that's why it led to the Civil War. Yeah, for sure. Because I didn't come up with that from studying. I heard it from other people at first, and then listened to videos on it and stuff, and have researched it. So yeah, for sure, I'm not the only one. And of course, people on my channel there would be people that feel the same way as me, because we're all about freedom here. Federal power isn't about freedom. Hey, good morning, Chris James, and Swampfish. Howdy. Louise Dion from Pickens, South Carolina. Oh, well, welcome. This isn't a typical live stream. But oh, anyway, hey, it's 45. Uh-oh, it's been over 20 minutes. Been 23. Let's see how the biscuits are doing. Chug my coffee. All right. The lighting would be better if I closed my door, but it's just too dang hot in here. Okay, let's see how it looks. It's been about 23 minutes, I think. And I can see already it's risen a lot, which is nice. But it's not brown. And the way you know biscuits are done is you smell it. Now the top also, but to tell how well it's cooked, I always push on it. So it's still doughy, but not, and that's pretty even. Because the door's open, the lighting isn't showing the shading very well, but it's even. That's what's most important, is that the brownness on top is even with the brownness on bottom. Ouch, wow. And the bricks are still hot, and I've got one in there that's super hot. So let's see, how am I gonna utilize this? I don't know if I should just put it on top or if I should swap it out. All right. Well, I'm gonna get that brick. I'm just gonna put it on top, I guess. So the goal is to bake it, to see the biscuits baked before the bricks cool off and no longer are giving off enough heat. So that's what I had to do last time. Not last week, but this week when I tried it again, I had better results. I still had to end up, it cooled off too fast up here, and I had to bake it by flipping it over. So that's a lot better. All right, well, much better results so far, but let's build up this fire. But you can also see there's no way getting around it. It just takes a lot of firewood to do it. That's what kind of sucks. I don't know. Maybe if I baked them in the evening. And for those of you who are new, I call them biscuits, but it's basically biscuit bread, kind of like soda bread from St. Patrick's celebrating, where it's all just one biscuit. I figured out along the road that that's simpler. So yeah, all right. Looks like it's gonna work. Another, well, yeah. It almost makes me wonder if I had 10 bricks outside in a separate fire, heat them up in 30 minutes, and then just put them all on top. And if I had 2 layers of bricks, I think it would, I think the heat would last longer. I don't know. We'll see. Keeping a good fire underneath is important. So, I think I touched on the most important parts about Thanksgiving. Because that was the parts that they leave out a lot of the important parts so that we end up fighting. So I was just touching on those parts that I think fill in the cracks. So, well, it's the Christmas season, and I'm excited. I need to remodel my cabin so it looks nice. For a while, I liked how ugly it was because it was $500, and it was my middle finger to civilization, saying, "See, you can spend $500 and have a cozy home." And I still have that attitude, but now I'm putting like 2,500 into it, maybe 3,000 when I'm all done, so that I have a beautiful home. I've got flooring. The flooring is going to add a lot, and then of course siding and the roof. And then my other cabin, that'll be the next project, probably. Well, yesterday there was snow way up there, but now it's all gone. We did get a freeze last night, but unfortunately it's warm in the daytime. Can't have snow when it's warming up. I would enjoy having a white Christmas. There's the horses. This is my brush pile from clearing out sagebrush from certain areas, and it would be so fun to have a bonfire. But I also have an incredible abundance of fire starter. But down here is these areas that I think that they actually leveled and graded. The previous owners, they had some machinery and did a lot of I don't know what you call that work offhand right now. They did a lot of work, the machines leveling stuff, and like up there's a leveled out area, and that was their rock quarry where they got rocks. And that's what this is. Almost like a terrace, but it's also pretty slanted. So I've been coming through and clearing it out, but you can't tell with the videos. There's the horses. They're really friendly when they want to roam free. Are you coming to say hi, or are you coming to tell me to let you roam free? Poor horses. They went from 40 acres of running wild to being penned up. But that's all right. As soon as I get shoes on her. See, here's one place where I liked how that one turned out, where they all. And turning on my water. See, it did freeze. At night I run the water onto theirs, and it keeps it from freezing. So any horse owners or livestock owners know how handy that, how wonderful that is. Yeah, Dutch oven baking. Whoops, shoot. Dark Angel mentions that reenactments. Yeah, Dutch ovens. I used to think that our Dutch ovens, modern style, were modern. And I always wondered what they had historically, because we've got this lip on them and stuff. But then in studying Old West history, I found out that is a historical style. Not sure about this part. That might be stainless. They didn't have stainless, but yeah, I was pleased to find out that Dutch ovens go back, the same style Dutch ovens that we use today go back a long ways, so that's fantastic. So yeah, it's a historical thing. The problem is that when I do reenacting, I don't reenact wagon camping, and I don't know that I've ever seen any or found any historical reference of people packing on horseback carrying Dutch ovens. But I might start carrying one with me. I have a smaller one, and I want to try it on our next pack trip. Me and somebody are talking about doing one. Here's my freaking pumpkin pie that I bought. The ingredients are so bad. Here it is. It's a smaller one, but having a dedicated horse and as minimal as I am, I might get away with carrying that. And for two people, it'd be fantastic. For one person, I wouldn't need it. But for cooking for my dogs, Darking, still a great comment. I wish you could be able to do that individually. Well, if you're paying rent, you can live in your car and save up money, live with parents, this is a cheap way to live. I wish I would have done it when I was younger. All right, let's see. It's been another 10 minutes now. Craig Curtis says there has to be rabbit out there. Yeah, there is. There's so little water. I think that keeps a lot of things from being out here. I've got the only water for a ways. There used to be a rabbit living up on my property, at least one, maybe more, but I don't know if he's still there. And the dang coyotes are so plentiful out here. I don't know that rabbits have a chance. Some of the coyotes make their way down to, we might need to cut this open. I think it's time to cut it open and see. It's not as brown as I would like. I like it to be a darker shade of brown. But let's just see. Also, we had butter chunks, so we'll see how those turn out. Yeah, it's still a little raw in the middle. Not sure if you can see that, but yeah, you can see the raw parts. Darn. Well, should have known. I can't smell it. So like I say, it's done. You know it's done or burning when you smell it. I'm not talking about a burning smell. I'm just talking about that sweet smell of biscuits. Well, doggone it. So it's been over 30 minutes now. So that's my main complaint about this wood stove. I say this all the time. I wish it was only up to here, if you can see that, instead of this huge gap, because the fire is like 1.5 feet from the top. Whereas if it was lower, then the fire would be right by it and it'd keep the top. But maybe when I move into my cabin, if I remodel that cabin and move in, I want to get one of those old school cook stoves. I've wanted one of those forever. So, and I've seen them cooked on both in Africa. They use them regularly in Africa. You see them being sold brand new. Anyway, when I was there 20 years ago, I can't believe how fast time flies. And then I also I was friends with some people who bought a house up in the mountains, and they had one, and it heated the whole house. I mean, it was a small house, but it heated the whole house, and so she was cooking on that. The husband didn't cook. She was cooking on it most of the time, and worked fantastic. So I don't know. Maybe eventually I'll replace this one also, so I can just use this in the cabin to stay warm, and get one better for cooking for this cabin. This cabin I intend to make a guest cabin, so if anybody wants to come and visit, I should have a guest cabin, hopefully next year. Dark Angel says, Louisiana doesn't like when you want to live off grid. I would have to move out of the state in order to. Yeah, I believe it. They hate us living free. Oh man, that stuff pisses me off. I've got enough property here that my family could come out and live, but like my brother built cabins in Oregon. He could do that here. We could set my mom up, who's on a fixed income, but it's against the law unless you live on a trailer. Then you can get away with it. If they tell me anything, I'll haul it. Anyway, All right, folks, we're getting on to 40 minutes of stovetop. I added another piece of firewood to see if we can build that fire up a little better. But we'll see. At 30 minutes, at 35 minutes, whatever it was still some raw in the middle and not brown. More like natural color on the exterior. I like it to turn brown. Gift of Love 911. That looks like a bot. Prove to me you're not a bot. All right, well, if anybody's got any questions, comments, we can keep this going. Otherwise, I might just end it and enjoy my biscuits with... I should put my butter up here where it can warm up so it's not rock hard. Butter and honey. That's my favorite. I've got more honey in storage. Living this way, small things make a big difference. I'm trying to get more organized. I put in this shelf in the cabinet. Should have put it about 2 inches higher. But anyway, it's funny how much a little shelf like that can help things. Next, I'm pretty broke right now, but on Amazon I found these black cast iron, I think they're cast iron, shelf holders that look really cool. So I'm going to put two shelves up there, and then that'll clear off this counter, and then I can clean it easier and have more space. And then over here I'm going to put up a bookshelf, and then I can clear off my desk. And it's funny how much of a huge difference that makes when you're living minimally. There's a few other adjustments I need to make. Am I doing the gunfighter reenactments? Not really. We're not going to Oregon for it anymore. There's just too much drama down there, and they don't appreciate the history of the gunfighting that we're doing there. So the only reenactment that I have planned is just camps, my own camps. My horse has been kind of down, and I'm hoping that her foot is okay now. She had a bruised foot, I think, and so I got to check her out again and see if I can put shoes on her, because it's too rocky around here to not ride without shoes, at least front shoes. I think I can just shoe front. And so anyway, if her feet are in good enough shape so I can start riding again, I'm going to ride every day and then do a historical camp. However, this right now is the worst time of the year to go camping because it's been rainy. We've had a lot of rain, and so the ground is wet, which is nice. We need precipitation, but it makes the air damp. And so just being outside, even when it's 35, 40 degrees out, it's just not pleasant. It's not like normal cool, when it like a dry cool. They talk about a dry heat. It's the same with a dry cold. I'd rather be in 20 degrees dry, 15 degrees dry than 35, 40 degrees damp. And that's what we're dealing with right now is damp. So it makes me just want to hang out inside and drink tea out of a saucer and make biscuits. So Tombstone. I don't know if I'll go back to Tombstone. I just drives me wacko, these historical places, and they just make a sheer waste out of it. I don't mean to be negative. Like, I do love parts about being in Tombstone because of the history there. You know, you can see right where they had the gunfight at the OK Corral. You can walk the streets where they walked. And, you know, it's just full of history. But that's what makes it such a shame when you see all these dumb stores and restaurants that are purely there just to make money. No appreciation for the people spending their money, coming hundreds, thousands of miles to be there. Like these days, especially, the tourism thing is kind of going out of the past, and what's coming in is people want to have intellectual experiences, and that's why if I ever make a ghost town, and not a historical town, not a ghost town, an old west town. One of my goals is to make an old west town, and it's just going to sit there for people to enjoy. You can go in the saloon, have a shot of whiskey, and just hang out. And that's what my brother was kind of doing in Shaniko, Oregon. He had a saloon set up, and it wasn't all about getting dollars off of people. It was mostly there to provide a good experience, and then as a consequence, you make a little bit of money too. And that's what we need more of, instead of just this shameless selling plastic crap and using up. Like, what a waste. Anyway, wet cold is probably the worst time to go camping. Dark Angel saying this as a comment. Wet cold, and I definitely understand that feeling. It's like that in Gettysburg. Yeah, you guys got a lot of humidity year round. That's difficult. I even have a difficult time here going up in the woods, up in the mountains where it's more humid. I get spoiled living in my dry climate. Well, still not brown. Okay, it's getting brown on the bottom. Not sure how well that shows up, but you can see it's browner than the top. So the inside's still not. I'm gonna flip it. So I got it flipped over. The pan is nice and hot. That was almost too hot to hold after that bit of time. So apparently there's still heat. But now that I've flipped it, who knows, maybe 10 minutes it'll be done. But you see what I mean? I was hungry an hour ago, and you just wait and wait. I'd like to get it to where I can have them baked. Oh shoot, I meant to get my waffle maker. Next week we're going to try waffles, and they'll cook a lot faster. This waffle iron, you heat it in the fire, and then you cook, and it's thinner, obviously, like pancakes. Pancakes and waffles are the way to cook it if you want it fast. Honestly, even if I just knew, okay, in 40 minutes, 50 minutes, I know it's done, then I can prepare in advance. But when I go at it thinking, oh, maybe I'll have biscuits in 20 minutes, and then it gets frustrating when it pushes on to an hour, still not done. So constantly cooking. That's the worst part about this. I like cooking, but when every meal comes from cooking, that's the hardest part about. I don't know if it's the hardest part, I'm saying, but there's so much time, many times where I wish I could just grab food and eat because I'm hungry, and instead I think, oh, now I got to cook, and having a high metabolism. I don't eat a whole lot, but I got to eat, and when it comes on, also I'm disorganized. I shouldn't be. The honesty, if I would just eat consistently and cook consistently, that would probably help. Anyway, should be almost done. Yeah, cooking with fire is different. What have I been eating all week? Well, I went back to my hot cereal because this stuff really does fill me up. I can eat this for breakfast at 6:30 a.m. and then I'm not hungry until 1 o'clock. So it's kind of hard, and it only takes food that you just got to boil water. That's the easiest. Like coffee and that hot cereal. That's why for my modern camping that I'm working on, I want to do a modern, like a bug out bag camp trip. I've got food that you just got to boil. So anyway, for breakfast, that's mainly what I've been doing. Or if I got rice, I'll eat some rice with butter and pepper. And then during the day, different kind of meat. I tried to celebrate Thanksgiving with bacon and ham, but the ham I had this big bone in the center of it, and so I was only able to slice off little pieces. Um, and But anyway, um, I got different meat. I got elk that a friend gave me. I got uh, just different meat. I try to eat meat and rice for lunch, and then that pretty much holds me. I only eat 2 meals pretty much. I've also started making popcorn again. I need to get a better. I want one of them old-fashioned popcorn poppers, but people on Marketplace rarely respond, or else I'd have one already. Craig says, I seem more happy at this property. Yes, I am. I feel a lot better at this property. I like the wide open, the peacefulness, no car noises. If I do hear car noises, I went over to my neighbor's property because there were some people on his property, but they were friends of his, so it was no big deal. But that's it. It's just they were in side by sides. Just the rare occasion of people being out here, and then it's nice to see people. That's the thing. That's why all this stuff about people fighting on social media. It's because everybody's living these stressed out lives around people. If you get out in the country and you slow down, then all of a sudden you realize, oh, I don't hate people. I like people, and people are fun to be around. That's how history was. You read about the cowboys. It's sad we see all these pictures of people in the old days, not smiling. We all know about that. It gives us this wrong impression that people were just kind of sad and mellow back then, and it's not the case. People were jokers and playing practical pranks and jokes all the time. And when you read all these historical accounts, you start to pick up on that. And anyway, they're a whole lot different than we are today. All this hatred for one another and people not liking to be social, and social media. There's all those posts about I don't want to be around people, or it's not that whatever. We've all seen it, and I get it. It's unfortunate. We got to ask why. And if people were living less stressful lives, then we'd realize, oh no, I actually enjoy people. Yeah, we enjoy animals. When they stare like that, it makes me wonder. What they're staring at. Yeah, there's good reason to not have them smiling, but it's unfortunate. It's a shame we don't get to see just how much they smiled and laughed back then. We need to realize how much we're being conditioned. But that's what my other channel's for. I mean, this channel is a little bit because it's also about how I live. But what's up, horses? Okay, it's been another 10 minutes, so might as well check the biscuits. And if they're not ready this time, I think I'll just call it quits and just let it take however long it wants. All right, here we go. Let's check it again. Now remember, I flipped it, so we'll see. We'll see. Well, the top, see, that's the bottom. That one's the bottom. This one's the top. And it's still not that golden brown that I like. But also let's break it open. Break it open and see if it's cooking. All right. Okay, well, it looks like it's pretty well cooked. Oh, and by the way, I didn't mention this for the the dough. I'm doing like half butter, half pork fat. And Because when I made it out of all pork fat and then just used butter for the topping, I didn't really like the taste. Maybe the fat wasn't as clear, as pure as I thought it was. So like I said, I went half butter and it tastes a lot better. So anyway, I'm gonna eat it because it's cooked through, but I'm also just gonna leave it on top of the stove so that it cooks more and more. Because I'll probably only eat half of it today, and then tomorrow morning I can eat half of it for breakfast. Well, so I don't know. I guess it's a success. It's a work in progress still until I get more comfortable on knowing how much heat I got and how long it'll take. But anyway, I'm excited about it because it's definitely a more even baking than than I was getting. So like I said, next week, cast iron waffles. I don't know where I forgot to grab the cast iron thing to show it. But it's one of those old fashioned ones where you flip it and it's got the little holder. So I'm excited about that. So that's what we're going to try next week. And maybe we'll try some eggnog in the future too. I think we're moving into cooking. This is going to be a cooking live stream, apparently, especially during Christmas. All right, folks. Well, thanks, and appreciate all the comments and questions that you guys post. Paying attention. That person I called a bot retracted her message. I'll feel bad if I was wrong, but I don't know. Did anybody check that profile out? I kind of assumed somebody would. And to you new ones, thanks for joining in. New folks, Jose, did you make it through the end? Should ask you what project you're working on if you're starting another one yet. All right. Well, everybody, Merry Christmas. I mean, we're in the Christmas season, so we can say Merry Christmas. I hope you had a fantastic Thanksgiving. And God bless America. And Viva la Revolution. Just kidding. All right. Take care. Oh, remember, life's a lot more fun over on the wild side.